So again, everyone, welcome to Powerful Revit Sheet and View Management with IdeateApps. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software, and so thanks so much for joining me today. As you kind of saw flashing by the screen there, my background is in architecture. I've had over 20 years of Revit experience. I was one of the original employees at Revit Technology Corporation back in the day, and then I worked at Autodesk for a number of years as a product manager. You can contact me. There's lots of information there. I'm always happy to contact with people on LinkedIn or Twitter, or if you have an additional question, you can reach out at richard.taylor@ideatesoftware.com. So I think this is a good time. I'm going to go ahead, just so we don't get distracted, and I'm going to pause my webcam. So Ideate Software is all about simplifying your Revit data challenges. Ideate Software creates 5 add-on solutions to Revit that you see there on the screen: Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Explorer, Ideate Sticky, IdeateApps, and Ideate Style Manager. And today we're going to be focusing on IdeateApps and specifically several tools within the IdeateApps collection. But first, I always like to mention that we have great support and technical help that is available both online as well as there's in-product help. We have getting started guides. We are updating all of our releases on the latest release of Revit and then the 3 previous releases. So in this case, 2021 Revit just came out a few weeks ago. And so today I actually am going to be showing Revit 2021 with IdeateApps, but we're also supporting 3 previous versions of Revit. And we're kind of in the state right now where we don't have all of our applications up on our website available for Revit 2021 yet. We have IdeateApps, we have Ideate Explorer, and soon within the next few weeks we're going to have the other 3, Ideate Style Manager, BIM Link, and Sticky. And we've got some big plans for Ideate Sticky, so stay tuned. So we do a lot of QA testing with large complex data from customers all around the world. So again, today we're going to be focusing on several tools within the Ideate Apps suite of products. So Ideate Apps is a one product, but it actually consists of 9 tools that are available and increase the efficiency and productivity for all staff, so all people that use Revit. So it's really geared toward the everyday Revit user. And again, I just wanted to mention that we just released a couple weeks ago our Ideate Apps for 2021. So that's now available on our website, as well as 2020, 2019, and 2018, as I mentioned. So I just wanted to highlight that. It's pretty fresh off the not fresh off the boat, but fresh off the batch, basically, of creating these applications. So today we're here to learn about Ideate Apps and specifically the Sheet and View tools within Ideate Apps. So I'm going to give you an overview of the Sheet and View tools. We're going to talk about how we can use some of the tools to standardize your naming for views. I'm going to show you how you can customize some of the rules when it comes to creating new views. And then some creative workflows, how you can kind of use all of these 4 tools together, and then some tips and tricks along the way. So again, we're going to be highlighting those particular solutions within Ideate Apps. And in fact, those are IDH Sheet Manager, Ideate Align, Ideate Clone, and Ideate View Creator. So the first solution, or the first tool, is called Ideate Sheet Manager. And I like to think of that as your central traffic cop, basically. Here's where we can, from Ideate Sheet Manager, we can actually access all of the other tools. We can go to Clone, we can go to Align, we can go to View Creator. And so it's going to give me a nice sort of overview of the individual views that I have, as well as the sheets that I have created. And I'm going to be able to create new sheets and sort of compose those sheets very easily with Ideate Sheet Manager. And then along the way, we're also going to use some tools called Ideate Clone that allows you to duplicate a sheet. In Revit, if you go to the project browser and you right-click and you try to duplicate a sheet, it's just not available because Revit doesn't know how to handle the viewports and other information. but we've solved that particular problem. So we're able to either copy the viewport, because you can only have one view on a sheet, right? Unless it's a schedule or legend. You can copy it, or you can swap it with another existing view, which I'm going to go through here in a moment. And then when you're copying or cloning the sheet, you're also able to align the views. So you can choose, like, you want to align, let's say, a schedule or align a floor plan. So you don't have to worry about the guide grid. It's going to be aligned based on the model geometry when it comes to a plan view. If it's a non-plan view, like a schedule or an elevation or a detail, it's going to be aligned by the upper left crop region. So I think the easiest thing is, let's just go see how this works. I'm going to switch over here to my Revit screen. And again, as I mentioned, I'm using Revit 2021. But if you're on Revit 2018, 19, 20, the functionality should be virtually identical. So all of our tools are accessed by going to the Ideate Software tab, the ribbon panel, and you see that everything in orange and light blue is the IdeateApps Suite or collection. So as I said, I'm going to start with IDH Sheet Manager. That's my central traffic cop, if you will, like I said, or central sort of dialogue where I can access all the other tools. So as I said, it's showing me all of the current views on the left and all the sheets on the right. And automatically, I have this tick down below, hide place views. It just means that, okay, when I have this ticked, I don't have to worry about a browser organization, even though I could select a browser organization. But this way is just nice, the fact that I can just show the views that have not yet been placed on any particular sheet. And again, the one that's bold, this Z.7 finishes default, is the one that I have open in the background. So it's showing me the bold. So right from this dialog, I can go ahead and create a new sheet. I'm just going to use a title block, and I can actually select a placeholder sheet. But in this case, I'm just going to say that I want to create a new sheet here. And what I'm going to do, just so that we can see that a little bit easier, I'm going to rename that. And I'm going to come over here to the sheet number itself, and I'm going to say that it's Z.1, just so it's up in my list here. And I'm going to call this coordination. All right. And so you can see that I can actually, if I have a whole series of sheets, I can find and replace and append and do some really nice features there. But in this case, the reason I do that is I wanted that to pop up here so you could see it a little bit. Now, it was placed in the background. Z.1 is my coordination. So I want to start laying this out and placing some views on it. So let's go over here to the floor plan. I'm going to expand the floor plans, and I can always expand this dialog a little bit if I want to see more, right? So I'm going to say, you know what? I would like this coordination, this west coordination, first floor plan view. I want to drag it over to Z.1. And so I just drag it over and release it, and that's going to assign that viewport to that coordination sheet. Then I'm going to come down here and look at my schedules, and I've got a door hardware schedule. I'm going to do the same thing. Click, drag, and drop that over. And so now when once I drag those two and I hit the little plus sign here, the floor plan and the schedule have now been assigned to the sheet. In addition, I'm going to come back over here to that finishes, right, sheet that I saw, or that you saw earlier that I started. And there's this elevation right over here, this one on the lower right-hand corner, this signage. I would like that to be on my new sheet. Well, as I said, a viewport, unless I copy it or copy it with detailing, can only be on one sheet. But what I can do is take this from that finishes default and just click and drag it over to coordination and release it. And the reason I like to show that is just the fact you can see that it actually is going to be removed automatically from this sheet because it can't be there anymore. And then it's going to come back over here to coordination. Now that I have it under coordination, this is where I can start to sort of maybe lay out oops, I didn't want to go to that view. I may want to say that I want this in the upper left-hand corner, and then it's going to place the viewports along the top so I can have them in a nice organization where I want them, and maybe I want this one, down here somewhere. So I say, all right, and I can even, decide that I want to move the title around. So, but it was nice because all the viewports are right there at my fingertips. So here we have this new sheet. It's Z.1, it's coordination. Now I need to duplicate it or copy it or clone it. How do I do that? Well, again, you saw I just moved my dialog down. This dialog is what we call non-modal, meaning that you can move it around and you can work as you see that I'm working with it still being on the screen. Or if you have I have a second monitor here. Sometimes it's nice to be able to just move that over to the second monitor for the time being. But for our purposes here, what we're going to do is say, all right, we've got this coordination sheet, right? Now we're going to click on this clone, and we're going to clone the sheet or duplicate it. So it says here, it's Z.2, it's coordination. We're going to call this structural. And the floor plan. Okay, so here's where I could decide that I want to copy, duplicate it just like I can with Revit. So in the process of creating this new sheet, I might want to take this first floor plan, west coordination, and copy it, right? Or I can actually pick a different view, swap it, and have it be aligned. So what I want to do is I want to swap it with the first floor west structural. And note there's this little tick mark here that says show similar views. So in this case, the signage, right? It's showing me all the elevations that are under basically the signage, right? But in this case, maybe I want a different elevation. So I'm going to untick this, and it shows me all the views. So then I can come down here to elevations, and I can do a building elevation instead. So there's the west elevation for structure, which is an overall building elevation. And I'm going to go back and tick this again. Now, schedules can be, both schedules and legends can be on multiple sheets. So it just says current, meaning that this door hardware schedule will, if I don't change anything, it'll just put this on the sheet as well. But in this case, I also want to swap it with something else. Let's say that I want to swap it with a room type schedule instead. So, before I select OK, basically I'm swapping these three views to these three new viewports. It's going to keep them aligned, and I have a new sheet name, right? And so when I hit clone, it's going to now, again, copy the sheet or clone it with all of its parameters. And you see here, it will copy the sheet, including all parameters, the title block, and any other information that you may have on that sheet. So now when I select done and come down here, there is my beautiful structural plan. And again, here was the first one. That was Z.1 coordination. If I zoom up, there was the door hardware schedule, right? And there's Z.2. If I zoom up, there was the room type schedule. So again, it's aligning it based on the upper left crop region. But the plan I didn't have to worry about because it was coordinated or aligned based on the model geometry. So really nice, the ability to clone sheets. Now another feature of Sheet Manager is the ability to place new sheets based on unplaced views. So if I come up back to my floor plans here, I have, or actually, you know what? I'm going to go to my ceiling plans. I'm going to expand the ceiling plan. And these three ceiling plans have not been placed on a sheet. As you know, remember I have this tick mark here that would hide it if it's already been placed on a sheet. So what I'm going to do is Shift. I'm going to select all three of those. And then over here, I'm going to create sheet based on unplaced views. So what it does is it says, okay, well, you need, if you're going to start out, we're going to place a new sheet. I want you to sort of create a matching sheet or select a matching sheet. So what we're going to do is that matching sheet was the Z.7 finishes. So let's come down here to finishes. That was our starting sheet, if you remembered, right? So again, just like when we cloned, it's going to copy. I can choose whether I want to have it be the line work or other 2D based details. It's going to have the same title block. But what I really like about this is it allows me to select whether I want to have the schedules as well. So in this case, I only want the general notes. And you see down below, it has this nice little highlighting here. I don't want to have the door hardware on every new view. I just want the general notes for all three of these ceiling plans, right? And then it says, well, what number do you want to start out with? And I'm going to say CP for ceiling plan 1, let's just say something simple. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. And so what it does now, as you see there, is it's cranking away here, and it's actually now creating 3 new sheets with that same title block, and it's going to have the schedules in the same location as what was the original matching sheet, right? So that's going to end up being completed here in just a second. And then once I do that, right, and this is almost 100, there it comes up with, oh, you've got these new sheets. I can edit the sheet names. And this is really nice, especially if I have a huge long list. I can take the sheet number and I can append or replace. In this case, I'm going to take the sheet name, right? And I'm going to find the word ceiling plan. And I'm going to replace with CP and say replace all. And you see that I just updated the ceiling plan with CP to all three of those before I select OK. Then I'll come over to the search window and I'll type in CP. And I can come over here and double click. And when I double click, it's opening up the sheet, right, with the associated views. And notice that that legend is on every single sheet because that was what I told it to copy there. So now when I look at that, there's the legend, which was my general notes. Here's the number 2. Here's the number 1, the ceiling plan. And, let's say for this one, I also want, I forgot there should have been a schedule placed on this particular sheet. So again, let's go back to the Z dot. Let me see, what was it, 7? Let's look at all that. Oops. These sheets. It's probably easier. So there's that. So there's that sheet, right? That finishes sheet. And remember, I had the floor plan, I have this legend, and I have a schedule. Maybe as an example, I wanted this schedule for this door hardware schedule on my sheet as well. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say copy legends and schedules. So there I just copied it. I'm going to go back to my CP. And that was the second one here, I believe. Make sure I'm right. That was CP2. Yep. And so I can right click and just say paste the legends and schedules. And there it is, right there in the upper right hand corner. So not only can I decide to create a number of sheets, I can copy and paste schedules. And I only did that once, right? But I can do that for multiple sheets, which is really nice. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the Ideate Sheet Manager with Ideate Clone and Ideate Align, and the ability to create sheets and basically lay out all of your sheets. So I also wanted to show, this is a nice quick video, and basically what it shows in the video is just the fact with the alignment. I only did several sheets, but you can do multiple sheets at the same time or multiple plans that are aligned. Okay, and you can also assign a scope box. So what I'm doing there is I'm ticking the scope box saying I'm applying this medical 1 to these 4 plans, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor. And I also want to go and align a schedule as well. So not only can I do this once, as you saw me do, but I can do this where I may have like the base plan, and then I have 20 or 30 stories that I want to align all of those plans to. And I can do that very easily. So there you can see that when I click on the view and go down to the properties palette, the scope box has been assigned, which is called Medical 1. And again, to all those particular floors. Okay, so that is the sheet manager, like I said, in the align, the clone. Next, we're going to talk about the view creator. So here is how you can create new views very quickly. So let's say that you need a whole series of new views for a different design option, or maybe a phase, as an example. You've got a renovation and you need a whole series of views for that new renovation phase. Here's where Ideate View Creator can help you lay out and decide the parameters or the properties as you're creating the view. A lot of times what will happen is you copy the view, then you go back and you switch all the properties and parameters. This is doing it all up front, which is, again, really nice. So let's take a look at this, how I could duplicate views using Ideate View Creator. So I'm going to switch back over here to my project. And you saw, I can actually access it. As you see here, if I go to the Sheet Manager, again, this is my central traffic cop. I can access the View Creator right here. Right, if I'm working with this, but sometimes just to save a little bit of real estate, since we're doing a presentation here, I'll just access it directly from the ribbon. And so when it comes up, it's reading the rules, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. We can customize these rules. So I want to duplicate views. I'm going to select the views. So it says, okay, well, here's my task. As I mentioned, I'm going to create new views for a new office renovation, and I need to have new phase and maybe some other settings set for those new views. So in this case, I'm going to look at my plans here. So there's my floor plans, and I've got I'm going to say the first floor, building code, this plan, east, west, the signage, like all those I now want to have as an office renovation. So I'm going to say next. And so it says, all right, well, hey, there's, by default, it just says, I'm going to say this, put in a suffix here for copy. Well, I don't want that. I want to switch the rule. So it says it's phase. So now it says, oh, well, this particular rule gives me the option, right, to set a phase. So I can say, oh, I want this to be the office renovation. And I want the phase filter to be, let's say, show demo and new. And I want to have a prefix called RT dash, and I want to have the suffix be dash reno. All right, so it does that, and you see that the names automatically update. Now, notice that when I change the phase from office renovation to new construction, the name doesn't change because that's the way this particular rule was created. But I'd like to be a little bit more intelligent about that. I'd like to actually have the name be driven by the parameter that I set here. So what I'm going to do is go and edit the rule. And here you can see the secret sauce. Basically, this allows you to look at the formula that's behind that particular rule. And you saw that I was able to create a prefix, I was able to name it, and then have a suffix. Well, maybe the suffix here I don't want anymore. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to add, so we'll add a field. And this field can come directly from Revit. So it can be any shared parameter, any project parameter, or system parameter. So in this case, I'm going to come down to phase, and I want the phase name, right? And then I'm going to say OK. Now it gives you a nice preview down below, and I say, you know what this needs, though, is it needs a constant. I want to have a dash in between. There's this little check mark that says prompt for value. This is giving the person the ability to prompt over here once the rule is run. Well, I don't want them to prompt for a value, whether it's a dash or a star or an asterisk or something. So I'm going to say no, that's just hard coded into the rule. And so I'm going to move that between name and phase name. So what we have now is we're going to have our prefix that's going to be customizable, the name of the view, and then I'm going to be able to automatically have a new name based on the phase. But maybe I want to do a couple other things here. You can see that it's applying or it's giving me the ability, the prompt here. This is with the prompt for the phase and the phase filter. For fun, I'd say, you know what? I'd like to assign a new template as well. All of these are architectural, so I want to assign at the same time, and I want to go back. I want to do architectural plan. And when I do that, I get a little error here or warning because you know what? I've made a conflict. I've told that when you run this rule, be able to let the user select the phase filter. But in actuality, this architectural plan sets the phase filter, and it has the control, right? It's the sort of master. So it's telling me that there's a problem. So I can untick this and say, you know what? Okay, I'll let the person be able to change the phase, but the phase filter will be set by this view template. And you can also assign multiple view templates apply multiple view templates before you assign. And if you know this is the same within Revit, you can apply the characteristics, and then finally this one actually assigns it permanently to the view. And you're going to see that in the properties palette when I do that. So I'm going to say this is I like it, I love it. Now you'll notice that I can still come over here with my prefix and I can type RT, right? And say, I want all the ones to be RT. Notice it says new construction. Now, how cool is this? If I change to office renovation, all of them are automatically updated to office renovation. I don't have to worry about it. And because I'm applying that view template, I don't have to worry about the phase filter either. So what I'm going to do is create these 5 new views. And I'll say done. And we're going to come back over here to my sheet manager now. And we're going to look at all the ones that are RT. And I'm going to go to my ceiling or my floor plans. There. And I'm sorry, there's our dog barking. The perils of working at home. So now I'm going to double click on a couple of these, and I don't have to open up all of them, but there's one. There's the first floor finish plan that we did. And if I come over here and look at, you will see that as I scroll down, it already has the architectural plan assigned to it in this new view that I created. It already has the office renovation as the phase, and the phase filter, and the reason it's gray is because it's being controlled by the view template. Okay, so again, real easy way to create multiple views here. So that's the duplicate views. And then I thought this was really nice. I have, again, a very short video of, let's say, you can create, there's 3 different methods for creating new views with View Creator. There's like, if you already have the plans or already have the plans to levels, you can do that. You saw I can duplicate, or I can apply dependent views. So in this case, I have a floor plan, HVAC duct plan that has dependent views for like the west, the center, and the east. So that's why the ABC. Now, I would like to take that and apply that once I've got that all nicely laid out for the first floor plan, right? I want to take those 3 dependent views and apply them to other levels in my project. So there's my lighting plan, my power plan, and my plumbing plan. And so I'm going to, for each of the levels, I'm going to go ahead and assign that. So there, because it's creating 3 new dependent views for each one, the list is quite long. The first one, you see that it's basically saying, hey, those were already there. They were created. I can't recreate them. So I can remove them from my list before going and creating the 24 views. So after I kind of scan through and decide that, yes, the naming is correct, this is good, I can go ahead and create all of those. And now those dependent views are created underneath the parent view there. And you see there's the ABC and the applied to both the piping and the plumbing plan. All right, so wrapping up here, I know we're just about the top of the hour here. I just wanted to give you a couple sort of tips. So there are rules with View Creator, and those rules we include both the basic and bonus rules, and they're accessed through that little cog. So if I come back over here, I look at the View Creator. Anytime you want to find out information a little bit more, like settings, you'll see a lot of our products have this little cog wheel, and there you can see, like, here's the rules will be imported from this location. So if I browse, right, you can see that it's going to have the basic rules, so like have both basic and bonus rules here. So you get started out with some rules here, and then you can go ahead and build your own very easily. Okay, so let's come back over here. So again, some creative workflows I said that we're kind of putting it all together is you can use Ideate View Creator to create new views for, like, I gave you the example of phases, but you can also do design options, you can do different disciplines, it's basically limitless. Then you can use Ideate Sheet Manager to create the new sheets or title blocks, or let's say you did, with Ideate View Creator, you created 20 views for a new design option. You could then place all of those views on a new sheet using Ideate Sheet Manager. And in fact, you can even use Ideate BIM Link if you want to create the placeholder sheets to use within Sheet Manager. So that's a little bonus. If you've got Ideate BIM Link and you've got a whole series of placeholder sheets or even regular, you can actually create sheets now within Ideate BIM Link. You could use that tool as well. And then you saw that I was able to copy and paste legends very easily. And then I was able to use Ideate Clone and Ideate Align to arrange the viewports on the sheet the way that I wanted to see them. So a tip here, I already mentioned this, but it's always good to highlight the fact that to align the views, if it's a model-based view or floor plan or structural plan or view, then it's going to be based on the model geometry. If it's a non-plan view, so if it's a elevation, let's say a section, detail, it's going to be based on the upper left crop region. And a nice little tip on the view rules, if you look at the rules that are supplied, again, out of the box, if you select on a particular rule, it's going to tell you like what methods it works with, whether it works with the duplicate views or the apply dependents or the plans to levels, it will highlight which method that particular rule. And some of the rules work with more than one method. And then I already mentioned this about the interactive prompts. If you untick that prompt for value, then the person running the rule won't see it. So you can decide whether you want to have sort of, as the rule runs, do you want that designer to have interaction as they create the new view or the views, or do you want to have it more sort of baked, if you will, or standardly where they don't have the access to that information to change. And then also you saw I made a conflict where there was a view template that was really the driving the characteristics as opposed to the property. Like in this case, the phase filter. If I had a rule where I'm also assigning a view template and then the phase filter is grayed out like this, I'm not able to select it. It's because it's, there's a hierarchy of the properties, and the view template always is at the highest level of that hierarchy. And again, speaking of view templates, I mentioned this, that you can apply view templates as well as assign. So in the example that I showed you, we assigned the architectural plan view template at the very end. And so when I went to all of the views and looked in the properties palette, the architectural plan was set there. So hopefully you had a nice overview of the Ideate Sheet and View tools within IdeateApps. I showed you just a few quick standards of how you could use Ideate View Creator to create view naming standards, and a little bit about customizing those rules and modifying them, and then putting it all together, looking at Sheet Manager, Align, Clone, and View Creator, and then some tips and tricks along the way for those four solutions. So I'd like to actually open up the floor to Sash. I haven't been looking at the questions too much because I know I've been kind of running through pretty quickly here, Sash. Are there any questions you feel that it should be answered as a group?
So yeah, hey Richard, great job on the presentation. I think you covered really the basis of everything. There was one kind of question or comment that I think is a good one maybe to bring up, and there was one thing and maybe I was going to ask that you just review for 30 seconds that I think is really good for the audience to see. If you go back to the Sheet Manager, I think it would be good for the audience maybe just to have a quick look at the cog or the settings for the Sheet Manager, because we've done some really cool things here related to how views are placed on sheets and how viewports are also set up. So, as most of you are probably aware, when you through Revit drag a view onto a sheet, it basically gets assigned a default viewport type. And then you have to basically then select the view afterwards and swap out the viewport type. What's really nice about Sheet Manager is you can actually come in here and assign the default viewport type for each of the view types. And so when you use Sheet Manager to then place the views onto the sheets, that are automatically assigned that viewport type. So I think that's a nifty built-in feature that we've done here.
Yep.
So that's what that is. And then, yeah, Richard, if you want to explain the title block and how the views are placed real quickly, this then kind of dovetails into the comment that we had from one person in the audience, but go ahead.
Yeah, if you're assigning, or especially either dragging like plan-based views, or let's say like when you saw that I was doing the creating a sheet from unplaced views, you might say, well, how did it know where to place the viewport on that particular sheet? So you can specify, like from the title block, for each title block, the default from the relation of the title block. So if I have like the title block itself, let's say, you notice in this case, most of the title blocks have a 6-inch, definition of the title block itself. So what I did is I specified this title block here, this ESB, which is, let's say, sticky back, or in this case, the IdeateApps, let's say, I wanted it to use the default, which was then move over, like don't put any view in that 6 inches of the title block, basically. So you can control that for each title block, as you see here, and the margins from the top of the sheet, the left, and the bottom, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's a really nifty setting, especially, when you have no views on a sheet, then we will adhere to the placement rules within that kind of white space. If there are views on the sheet, then we place them on the outside of the title block, and then you can arrange it, as you see fit.
Yeah. So what I
Um,
did here, just to like, I went over and I said, oh, you know what do I need here? And so if you look at this was like 5¼ inches. So I said, oh yeah, I'm going to make it 6 inches just so that I'm not getting any views in this space right here. So it's based on the actual dimensions of the title block.
Yep, exactly. And then we did get a question about the viewport titles when you put views on sheets, or when you put viewports on sheets, how they don't align. And I'll just tell you right now, we've had this come up. It's logged in
Yep.
our system, and this is actually a limitation of the Revit API. And we don't, from a programmatic standpoint, again, there's a lot of mathematics that goes on with placing views on sheets. And there's no API access to viewport type, so we cannot get the information on its XY placement relative to the view, the length of the title line, and so forth. So that information is logged, and when we get access to that, I can guarantee you we'll definitely be looking into programming that.
Yeah, I get that question a lot too, and also, as everyone knows, it's I could have 5 different floor plans, and I can move them around because it's a sheet-based property, or it's a 2D property that's not, I can move this one over here, but that doesn't mean that title has changed on any other sheet, right? I
Yep.
can have it be independent for each sheet, and so I think that's where the sort of plan or the problem lies, is that it's a property that is a sheet-based property.
You got it. You got it. Now, we did get a couple other questions or comments, and those are going to be more feature requests. So we'll get together with those folks that have those questions to address them because they are good questions.
All right, excellent. Well, let me switch back over here to the ending of the presentation. Be sure to follow us on ideatesoftware.com. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.